1791, the Bight of Biafra, where the salt water meets the swamp and souls are traded for brass. Grand Bonny, the busiest port in the world for the most human of cargo. Chief Alali ruled the creeks, a man whose ivory cane was heavier than the law. Across the horizon, the Black Star emerged, a British ship rotting with fever and greed. Captain Miller was a dying man. He needed 200 slaves to save his ship, or he'd never see London again. He anchored in the Horrid Hole, unaware that the King of the Creeks was already watching. The invitation was sent, a banquet of brandy and betrayal. Alali boarded the ship with 20 canoe men, the strongest sailors in the Delta. Miller offered Spanish gold and brass manillas, but Alali wanted something the captain couldn't give: respect. In Bonny, if you don't pay the Comy tax, you pay with your life. Miller had a secret plan. Once the cargo was loaded, he would kidnap Alali's freeborn sailors too. 2 for the price of 1. Desperation makes men do the unthinkable. But Ikenna, a captive from the hinterland, heard the whispers in the dark. He spoke the trade English. He knew the captain's heart was blacker than the Atlantic. Through the cracks in the floorboards, he saw the first mate taking a bribe. Alali had already bought the ship's loyalty before he even stepped on board. The 200 captives Alali brought, they weren't slaves, they were his best warriors. Their chains were made of soft lead, designed to snap at a single pull. The trap was set. The moon was high. The mangroves were silent. Captain Miller gave the signal, "Drop the nets." But Alali didn't move. He simply tapped his ivory cane. Suddenly, the captives in the hold didn't scream. They rose. Ikenna led the charge. The ghost slaves were now the masters. Chaos erupted. The British sailors found themselves fighting an army they thought they owned. From the mangroves, 60 war canoes emerged like shadows from a nightmare. Captain Miller turned to his first mate. "Fire the cannons!" The first mate just smiled and pointed his pistol at the captain's head. "The chief pays better, Captain," he whispered. The British flag was lowered. The Ibani colours were raised. The Black Star was no longer a slave ship, it was a trophy. Alali walked over to the shivering captain. "You came for souls, Miller, but in Bonny, we don't sell our brothers. We only sell the fools who try to buy them." He took the captain's telescope. "I'll keep this to see the next fool coming." The captain was stripped of his rank, his coat and his pride. The British sailors were put into the canoes. They were the ones going into the hinterland now. Ikenna stood at the helm, a free man on a stolen ship. Alali turned to his people. "The river belongs to us." The Black Star was stripped of its guns and its gold. Every ounce of British wealth was taken. News reached London. The investors were ruined. The Horrid Hole had swallowed another fortune. But the British Navy couldn't retaliate. The creeks were a maze they couldn't navigate. Alali's house became the most powerful in the Delta. He traded on his own terms. He never forgot the treachery of the Europeans. He simply perfected it. Ikenna became a legendary captain of the creeks, guarding the mouth of the river. The ivory cane was passed down, a symbol of the day the Delta fought back. But the ghosts of the Black Star still linger in the mist. Fishermen say they still hear the sound of chains snapping when the tide is high. Treachery is a currency that never loses its value. In the slave trade, everyone had a price, but some costs were too high to pay. The Kingdom of Bonny stood tall, a fortress built on palm oil and blood. History remembers the ships, but the river remembers the men. Why did the British call it the Horrid Hole? Because they knew that once they entered the creeks, they were no longer in control. Alali wasn't just a trader, he was a master of psychological warfare. He used their own greed to destroy them. This story isn't in your history books. They wanted you to forget the Black Star, but the truth always rises to the surface. The Atlantic didn't just take souls, it kept secrets. Follow the path of the ivory cane. The ghost of Grand Bonny is still watching the horizon. Are you brave enough to enter the creeks? Follow for more untold history.